When you drive Interstate 5, you are driving on the west side of California's Central Valley. This ribbon of real estate is the main artery of money and power in California, and without question, the most powerful of the combatants in California's water wars. Understanding who they are and what they are doing helps explain why California king salmon are in danger of going extinct. In the middle of this ribbon of power is the Westlands Water District. Formed in 1952, Westlands encompasses more than 600,000 acres of farmlands in western Fresno and Kings County. They exist to provide water to their members from the Central Valley Project, a federal water project that was developed with your taxpayer dollars. Their website says that they serve about 600 family-owned farms, but the number of families actually farming has been estimated at only 130 to 350. It just depends on how one chooses to define the word farmer. And while it's true that there are actually a few small family farms within the district, the vast majority of the land serviced is run by giant agriculture. The Westlands Water District is home to many of the names synonymous with wealth and power in the Central Valley, and indeed California history. The Boswell Company, John Harris and his Harris Ranch, Wolf Farming, even Chevron, which owns 10,000 acres in the Westlands District. These are a few of the powerful forces at the heart of the problem. Westlands is arguably the nation's most politically powerful irrigation district. It has produced an undisputed bounty of crops since its inception. But this is a desert. There is not enough natural water here to sustain the type of crops that Westland produces, so they are dependent on water that comes from Northern California. Imported water that would have never been available without a mandate from Congress decades ago that built the Central Valley Project. That was a gift to California agriculture, a gift that keeps on giving and keeps on screwing taxpayers and the environment.
If you actually charged the full cost of water storage and development, the system wouldn't work. It has to be subsidized by the taxpayers without their knowledge. Charge the true cost to the water users. You would see almost immediately that agriculture as we practice it in California would collapse. It wouldn't work. It has to be subsidized.
Or to put that in layman's terms, the government should stop meddling in the business of the farmers who would actually still be living in a desert if not for government meddling. History! History! History hurts my brain.
For a look into the sordid details of some of the West Side farming interests, we strongly recommend you read the book Cadillac Desert. It is an important look at the history of water politics in California. So what's wrong with Westlands besides their never-ending demands for more and more water? In the Salmon Water Now video, Bad Dirt, Bad Water, Bad Farms, we documented the soil conditions that exist in much of the Westlands Water District service area. Water, and lots of it, is dumped on some of the most problem-plagued soil in the state. It is toxic, mineral-laden desert soil that has always been bad and continues to create huge environmental problems.
When they irrigate these lands with water that comes from the delta, there's a certain amount of naturally occurring salt in that water that they irrigate with. When they leach the salt out of the soil, it also leaches out the selenium, the boron, mercury, arsenic, whatever happens to be present in the soil. There's so much selenium in the western San Joaquin Valley. Even if they stopped irrigating today, they stopped adding to the reservoir of selenium that's in the aquifers, and they drain 43,500 pounds a year, it would take 63 to 304 years to drain the accumulated selenium out of the aquifers of the western San Joaquin Valley. What they've already created is a multi-generational Superfund site, and nobody's doing anything about it.
Even Westlands acknowledges the problems. In fact, they have had to remove land from production because of the combination of several interrelated factors, including lack of fresh water, lack of drainage, the presence of high water tables, and salinization of soil and groundwater resources.
Irrigation of those lands is not only consuming water from the system and is part of the water that is exported from the Delta, it's also creating water quality problems and, in fact, other toxic problems. Our position has been that the cheapest and most efficient solution is to retire that land and not irrigate it.
These newspaper stories were written in the 1980s, and the story remains the same. These problems persist and continue to question the sustainability of irrigated agriculture in the Westlands Water District.
In the case of Westlands, ultimately when the land salts up and goes out of production, which will occur, they will then market that water to cities and make a huge fortune, and basically the taxpayers would have paid for it.
But despite these problems, or perhaps because of them, the powerful, wealthy landowners that control the Westlands Water District continue to ratchet up their demands for more water. Water taken from Northern California rivers, from the fragile and nearly collapsed Sacramento Bay Delta. We believe that their demands for water ultimately are not about growing crops, but rather about obtaining and securing water rights. Because in the end, after the almond trees and cotton and all the other water-intensive crops cannot be grown because of the bad soil, what is left is water. And it is water that is a commodity for sale on the open market, and it's more valuable than anything growing in the ground. California water, or lack of it, has always been the stuff of drama, greed, power, and wealth. But water belongs to all of us. It is a limited, precious resource that throughout time has been in the public trust.
You go back to the institutes of Justinian in ancient Rome, to where running waters like and air, like the seas, and things common to all, property of none. You know, that came to us by English common law. The Magna Carta on the plains of Runnymede was partly in response to Prince John saying that he could charge tolls for transit on the rivers. The nobles told him that the rivers belonged to the people. It's a public trust resource. California Supreme Court decision in the 1800s said that water was usufruct. Usufruct being the right to use something belonging to another as long as you don't abuse or destroy it. The modern water code came into being in the first 2 decades of the 1900s, following the states sending surveyors and engineers to every county in the state. And they came back with the evidence, and they realized that we had given away rights to more water than exists. And so over the next 2 decades, we developed a modern water code. And it was essentially that riparian users, those living adjacent to the waters, rights were sacrosanct. I mean, they were the most senior and protected water rights.
Most of the time, there is enough water in California for the needs of people living in cities, for farmers to grow sustainable crops, and for the needs of nature, if we share. If, as a society, we make, use, and enforce laws that provide balance. It is not an unreasonable goal. Fishermen and farmers, office workers, baseball players, and boaters, birds and salmon, sharing a balanced and equitable distribution of water. Every generation has the right and responsibility to use water wisely and to protect it from detrimental abuse. That is why it is important for you to share this video with your family, your friends and co-workers, because everyone needs to understand that there are powerful, dark forces in California and Congress that are determined to have their way. It is way past time to stop the forces of greed and their sordid efforts for more and greater power. It is time for salmon water now.